Welcome back to BBN After Dark, another fantastic weekend of Bears baseball. A ton of games all weekend long, but we are going to talk about everything that happened over the weekend. But very first, we have our September awards. The major awards, they're going to be held out until Friday when the BBN full episode comes out. So MVP, Cy Young, Rookie of the Month, and Platinum Glove are all going to be revealed on BBN on Friday, as well as our hitting and pitching prospect of the month. But today on this show, we are going to reveal our all-star team for September, as well as our all-rookie team, and we're going to talk about the boys. So a lot to talk about there, but let's go ahead and start with this weekend of baseball. A lot of good baseball being played, but I think the headline has got to be the domination from 16U Dalton. They go into GMB and take care of business. I mean, other than one game, it was a margin of 8 runs or more in all of their wins. You know, a win by 13, a win by 10, a win by 8, a win by 8, and then they had a 3-run win as well. But it was a dominating weekend from this team, and there's been discussions about who the best team in the Bears is, but I think it's hard to say. It's not 6U Dalton. This team just seems to win everywhere they go. Doesn't seem to matter who they play. Doesn't seem to matter who's hot, who's cold. They've gone through, different guys going through slumps. We mentioned in their last tournament win, Tegan Kreitler went through a bit of a slump, but he was definitely the MVP of this weekend. A monster weekend for Tegan Kreitler as he kind of led the way. So this Dalton team taking care of business. And KJ, I want to go ahead and start with you. I mean, this team going into GMB, absolutely dominating all weekend long. And it's hard to say what the most impressive part of their game was. Pitching, defense, or offense, I'm not even sure. KJ, what did you think of 6U Dalton this weekend?
Yeah, I think their pitching is always, their big thing. Um, but I think their offense is getting much more consistent. I think we had some question marks about some of the guys on offense lately. I think Ty Zazahueta has been really the only, very consistent hitter for that team, and it seems like we're starting to find more consistency in the lineup, and that pitching um, is as good as advertised. So just everyone doing their job, and somehow this team is getting even better.
Yeah, and it seems like they just go in and they just are fearless, man. It feels like they are the best, have the best chance to win every single game because they don't think they're ever the underdogs. It doesn't matter who they're playing. They go in there thinking they're going to win, and they do. They do a lot of the time. And I do want to go ahead and finally introduce a brand new member, a special guest here on BBN After Dark, Mac Floyd, joining the show. Mac, very good to have you. I want to get your perspective on this Dalton team. Obviously, you've played against these guys. You've played next to them for when they come up and sub on the top team. But what is it about this Dalton team that makes them so dominant, man?
Yeah, I'm right next to the team a lot, and it seems like there's not a single weak spot on this team. I mean, everywhere they have someone that can dominate. You can go anywhere and find a good pitcher there. You can find anyone that can hit a ball, super hard, super far, and it's unbelievable what this team is able to do week in and week out.
Yeah, and it was both sides of the ball all weekend long. Bernie, one guy that I did want to get your opinion on, Elijah Underwood. It seems like this guy has gotten better as the season has gone on. A 10K outing, his best strikeout outing of the season. Bernie, this guy, when he's at his best, is absolutely dominant. What did you think of Elijah Underwood from his start this weekend?
Yeah, we've said before that early in the year he was dealing with whatever that injury was, but as the season's gone on, this guy's gotten stronger and stronger. I know a couple weeks ago we talked about how he had an outing where I think he had like 8 Ks, but also like 5 walks. But we said it was nice to see the Ks were back because I mean his stuff was kind of back. And this week goes back out there. Walks were down, strikeouts were up. So it seems like Elijah, like we said last week, is starting to come all the way back.
Yeah, he was absolutely dominant. It seems like a lot of times he's just been able to live with his fastball. I think he was doing a better job in this game of mixing off speed in as well. But it still was fastball dominant, and he was absolutely dominating the hitters up and down the order. 10 Ks in the victory there for that Dalton squad. So very, very impressive. I mean, this team, 4 weekends to go now for this Dalton squad, and I think there's a chance it's going to be tough, but I think there's a chance they could get close to 60 wins. If they get 5 wins a weekend, obviously they get there, but even a 5-5-4-4 would get them there. They need 18 more wins. It's obviously going to be really tough that, they would have to have some brackets go their way, just because if they win out, they may only play 4 games a weekend. But I think there could be a chance this Dalton team could win 60 games, which we have never had a high school team do. That would be unbelievable for this Dalton squad, who set the Bear win record last year. If they could go ahead and get 60 wins as a high school team this year, that would be unbelievable. Let's go ahead and move on to 14U Floyd, who took home the championship this weekend, a 4-0 weekend. Felt like this team, once again, was clicking on all cylinders. The bats have really, really come alive for this team. That, in my opinion, was probably the weakest aspect of their game in the summer, but their bats have been one of the more consistent aspects in the fall so far. This team in the summer, I think, was the best defensive team in the Bears. They maybe still can make that argument, but I think it's not as clear. I think pitching has been kind of on and off for this team in the fall, but the offense and it up and down the offense has been very, very consistent all fall long. KJ, I want to go ahead and start with you and talking about some of the guys on this team who had big weekends. Jack Kester, a monster home run in the championship game. He was kind of moving up and down the lineup all weekend, ended up in the cleanup spot in the championship, and obviously had the big swing. Evan Lancaster had a great weekend all weekend long with the bat, and it seemed like Parker Ells was starting to get back to what we expect from him. So, KJ, I don't know if you want to talk about all three of these guys or maybe just pick one. What were your thoughts on the 4-2 Floyd offense this weekend?
Yeah, again, this is a team that, we've said it before, but the best teams always have guys who step up, and they're always so deep, and this is one of those teams. And I'll talk about, Evan Lancaster. I don't think we've really talked about him hitting wise. We've a lot of times when we talk about him, it's for pitching, but this guy played for Bell a lot of the spring, and he had a really good spring at the plate with Bell. And I've seen this guy hit some bombs. He's kind of overlooked by how good the rest of that team is and that starting lineup. But Evan's not a gimme out at the plate by any means. This guy can hit, and he can hit for power, despite what his size might tell you. So yeah, I think he's a very underrated hitter for what he gives you. And I think there's not a lot of teams where he's probably not a top 8 hitter on that 14 Floyd team, and there's not a lot of teams that in Missouri I think that would be the case for him.
Yeah, I mean, he ended up this weekend. I think one of the themes I had for my team this weekend was trying to find who's going to own the top of the order, and I mixed up the lineup a lot this weekend. Evan ended up in the 3-hole in the championship game, which just shows you how good of at bats he was taking all weekend. I'm not sure how much he got out. I mean, he really, every time he went up to the plate, it seemed like hit a ball hard. But moving on to the pitching side, Mac, I want to get your thoughts. Another dominant outing from Lucas Velchek here in the championship game, a 0 ERA in the game, went a complete game and took care of business on the mound. This guy is arguably, age appropriately, maybe the toughest pitcher in the Bears to hit against. Mac, what do you think of Lucas this weekend, and what do you think of Lucas Velchek's season all year long?
Something I like about Lucas, he's going to go out there, he's going to throw the ball super hard, he's going to throw strikes. So, he can go out there anytime and he can dominate. It doesn't matter what the team is, doesn't matter if it's super good team, super bad team. He's going to go out there. He's going to have, that dominant stuff that he always has. And it's something that, it's unseen for a lot of teams, but, we have that guy, and it's just great to have him.
Yeah, and to your point, Mac, it feels like when he takes the mound, you just know you're going to win. I don't know when the last time we've lost a start that Lucas Velchek has had. It has to have been a while, because it seems like every time he goes out there, we're just winning the game. And when you take the field with that kind of confidence, I think it's just a huge, it's a huge thing. Just to know you're going to win as soon as the game starts. So, thought a fantastic job from them. And then finally, Bernie. I know we've kind of talked about these two guys a little bit, but it seems like that they're kind of getting swept under the radar a little bit, maybe one more than the other. But Quinn Steinbeck and Mason Geddes have just been absolutely dealing over the past couple of weekends. I don't have the stat right in front of me, but I believe it's like 22 Ks to 4 walks for these two over their last 2 starts each. Absolutely dominant. Bernie, Quinn Steinbeck, Mason Geddes on the mound. What did you think of this pitching duo this weekend, and what do you think about them going forward?
Yeah, I think with Quinn now, we've seen this for a while now. I know toward the end he had an insane run toward the end of the summer. He had like an ERA under 1 or around 1, and he's just continued into the fall. It doesn't matter who Quinn faces, because what he's gonna throw at you, right? He's not gonna be Velchek. He's not gonna go up there and throw 75, but he's gonna go up there. He's gonna throw a lot of curveballs and a lot of changeups that move a lot, keep a lot of good teams off balance. And then Geddes has been, the more recent guy. He recently got a chance last weekend, or maybe it was 2 weekends ago, with Floyd, and he's impressed. He goes to the pounds zone. Another guy that is not going to overpower you, but has a very good off speed, a very good curveball, and a very good changeup. And he's able to go up there and keep teams off balance.
Yeah, and just adding that depth, I would say in the last GMB tournament we played, I think what ended up being the death of us on Sunday was the lack of pitching depth, and that kind of inspired me to get some other guys' innings, and it turned to Mason Geddes, who had been looking good in precision pitching in August and September. So I figured I'd give him a shot on a Saturday game, and he was so good, he earned another shot, and then he was good again. So it's like now he's a fixture in the rotation. Very, very impressive. It seems like this 14U age really just keeps spitting out good players over and over and over again. Been very, very impressive all weekend long. We are going to go ahead and touch on a lot of different ages here as we go through the All-Star team. So let's go ahead and start with 11U Floyd and their All-Stars for the month of September, starting with Matthew Hume, who had the #1 OPS for this 11U Floyd team. And of course, Mac, I got to start with you. This guy, I mean, it just seems like he just hits the ball hard every at bat. He just goes up there, he swings hard, and he makes loud contact every single at bat. I know KJ has said before that he doesn't necessarily look like he'd be a top baseball player, but he just is. I mean, he just hits. He just hits every single weekend. Matthew Hume, I think you could say was definitely the offensive MVP for this team in September. What'd you think of his month? And he's getting his first All-Star here on the board. Give me your thoughts on Matthew Hume.
Yeah, I mean, he's an awesome kid. He goes out there, he swings as hard as he can. He has the bear approach. He keeps his head down, swings hard. And best part about him, he doesn't strike out at all. I mean, the guy goes out there, he has one strikeout all fall. And I mean, it's crazy to see what he can do all the time because he does it. It's like it's nothing to him. I mean, in the cage, he keeps his head down, he swings the ball hard, and the balls he hits in the cage are crushed. And you can see how that relates to the game. And it's awesome to see every weekend.
Yeah, and it's as this 11U Floyd team is trying to find their identity and find their guys, it just seems like having this guy in your lineup who just is going to be consistent. He's going to take care of business up and down, wherever you put him in the order, whatever the situation is, he's going to give you a good at bat, and he's going to give you everything he's got, with his swing. So, hey, congratulations to Matthew Hume grabbing that first All-Star in his Bear career. I don't think it'll be the last. Moving on to the next All-Star from this team, Owen Haynes, who definitely a two-way All-Star. I know this guy he kind of got his first fame on BBN for his pitching in that first opening weekend he had with the Bears, but his bat has been really what has caught my eye. He just continues to take good at bats. Bernie, I know this is probably one of your favorite players on this 11U Floyd squad, so give me your thoughts on Owen Haynes, both on the pitching mound and also at the plate.
Yeah, I'll start with on the mound. He's a lefty. He's gonna go up there. He's gonna pound the zone, but he's not exactly just just lobbing the ball in there. He's not just a strike thrower. Yeah, he throws the ball. I'm not gonna say he's a flamethrower. He throws the ball decently hard up there. He's gonna pound the zone. He has a little changeup he uses a lot more in games now, especially recently. And with the bat, it's another guy that hits the ball hard. And he's not striking out right now at all. I haven't seen Owen in many game situations, but just from what I've seen in the cage a little bit, he's gonna hit the ball hard every at bat, and he's not gonna strike out very often at all. I know he's bad leadoff recently for that squad.
Yeah, and again, as obviously we're going to talk about this a little bit later, but Owen Haynes obviously going to be on our all-rookie team as well for this fantastic month. So it just, again, as this 11U Floyd team tries to find their guys, Owen Haynes continues to make himself, known as you can count on me, whether it's on the mound, on defense, at the plate, you can count on me to be a top guy. And another rookie who's also making an appearance on the All-Star team is Carson Griffith. And I think predominantly he's getting that All-Star nod because of his pitching. He's been so good, at 11U, having a guy who's just going to go out there and consistently throw strikes. KJ talks about all the times, if you can get a bunch of strikeouts without walking guys, I mean, that's the perfect combo as a pitcher. So Carson Griffith, I believe it's something like 19 Ks to 2 walks in the month of September. KJ, I know you've talked about this guy for his bat, but what do you think about Carson Griffith and the month he had on the mound?
Yeah, I think especially at 11U, it's very important to just be a guy who throws strikes. You're kind of to the beginning stages of guys having curveballs and guys having different stuff, but the best pitchers at 11U are always going to be the ones who throw strikes, and he's well ahead of his time there. in that category. So, yeah, he's definitely been someone Matt can rely on in that rotation, and someone they didn't have, in the spring.
Yeah, and adding that again, as you try to find your identity, that reliability, that confidence that you're building in each of your players. Mac, I'll go ahead and ask you, and I don't know if you're going to want to answer this just because I don't know if you want to, make a decision like this, but of these three guys, Matthew Hume, Owen Haynes, and Carson Griffiths, which of the three do you think has the best chance to be a future Bear MVP?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go with Owen Haynes on that one. He's a guy. I like to call him. He's one of the most unlucky players in the Bears because every weekend this guy smokes the ball and the outfielder will make a lucky catch. I mean, every weekend it's another ball hit over their head where they just reach their glove out and catch it. He's probably one of the hardest hitters on the team, and and his pitching. I mean, you don't even have to mention his pitching. You guys said it all, but he's a great pitcher. He's a great fielder. And yeah, I definitely see him being a future MVP and for a long time.
Yeah, this guy seems like he's all in. Obviously, he is related to Jude Blattner as well, who's kind of been in the Bears for a little while. So I don't know if you could say a legacy name, but definitely a Bear family. So I think Owen Haynes, definitely taking care of business so far, and definitely I think the future's very, very bright for him. Moving on to 12U, we have three more All-Stars from 12U Birnstill, and let's go ahead and start with the obvious one. This guy, I mean, I don't think there's been a month where he hasn't been an all-star since he's been a Bears youth varsity player. Harrison Blebaum taking home another all-star, leading the team in OPS this month once again. And there's nothing this guy can't do. And I would say the one thing that people said he maybe couldn't do was pitch, but he was arguably the best pitcher on 12U Burns this month. Just doing it all right now. Definitely earns another all-star on the badge. And Bernie, what is there left to be said about this guy? Because he really does do it all right now. Harrison Blebaum, another deserved all-star appearance. Give me your thoughts on Harrison Blebaum, Bernie, on both sides of the ball.
I mean, yeah, I don't know how much is more to be said about Harrison. I mean, with the bat at least, because a lot of people were saying, there's rumors going around that Harrison was not having a great month, and then you look and he's still batting 600. He's still hitting for power. Doubles are probably toward the top of the Bears. He's still having a great month, and then with the pitching, that's been a new revelation. He's been working hard in position, over the past couple months. I've said it before. He told me that he would be a good pitcher for me one day, and he's came in, and there is a debate to be had. He's my best pitcher. I mean, Owen Lewis has kind of been that guy, and I don't know if I'd put him above him quite yet. But then Harrison went out there on Sunday and threw a 4 inning game where he had no 1 runs on Sunday against a very good squad. So Harrison's really gone up there. He can throw a fastball for a strike. He can throw a curveball for a strike. He can throw a changeup for me. He can throw all three pitches for strikes. Yeah, he's been great as of late.
Yeah, I don't know that there's much more to be said about this guy. Definitely one of the stars of the Bears. I think there's no doubt he's a top 5 player in the Bears right now. So another all-star under his belt. Moving on to Cale Taylor, this guy was a basically monthly addition to the all rookie team back in the summer, when he was kind of in the second half of his rookie year. And now it seems like he's a all-star every single month, even dating back to a couple of the months at the end of the summer. But this guy, it seems like he's taken his game up to another level. He's kind of, in my opinion, moving from that star tier that we talk about and kind of inching his way into that superstar tier where we're talking about him as one of the best 10, 15 players in the entire Bears organization. KJ, I know this is a player that you like a lot. I mean, it's hard to not love his hard work. It's hard to not love his swing, and it's hard to not love his defense. I mean, this guy really has turned into a guy who, again, can do it all. KJ, what are your thoughts on Cale Taylor bringing home a September All-Star?
Oh yeah, this is a guy who can kind of do it all. He's a reliable pitcher on that team. Every weekend, and I think he's a great hitter as well. But what the most underrated part of his game is how good this guy is at shortstop. I mean, he's a legit shortstop, and I called Cale Taylor up to my team on Sunday, and he played up an age, and he made a couple very nice plays in the infield over there. So this guy is a legit infielder, but yeah, his bat and his arm are almost superstar caliber, and this guy can compete with the best of them. I'm really excited to see what he can do in this upcoming BWL season against an older group. I'm excited to see if Cale can stand out.
Yeah, I mean, everything this guy does is is right. Everything he does it right. He swings hard. I would say his hitting approach has definitely matured, over the course of his time being in the Bears, to where he really doesn't take very many bad at bats. And not only does he make the routine plays, he makes some superstar plays as well. So it's been very, very impressive to see this guy work and grow into a player. I don't know if he's necessarily an MVP candidate yet, but I think that is just over the horizon here, over the course of maybe even, as early as next spring. I think he could be kind of fighting for MVPs, going forward. So the final member here of the All-Star team for 12U Birnstill is Owen Lewis. Again, the theme for 12U Birnstill is guys at the top of the team who can do it all. Owen, good fielder, good pitcher, good hitter, can really do it up and down. Had a really nice month in terms of the power. I know he's been putting in that work at Free Swing in September, had a really nice power hitting month. But Bernie, I mean, this guy, when you talk about reliability, kind of what we were talking about with 11U, there's not really anybody more reliable than Owen. In all facets of the game, you know what you're going to get from every time. You know he's going to throw strikes. You know he's going to make the routine plays, and you know he's going to give you good at bats. So, what is there to say about Owen, Bernie, and how great of a month did he have here?
Yeah, like you said, the only thing that like Owen will do wrong every once in a while is to go up there and he'll swing not to strike out. Basically, he'll go out there, he'll try to put the ball in play, and that's my biggest thing with Owen is right. We're going up there to do damage, right? You're not even if you go up there and swing as hard as you can, right? You're not going to swing miss very often. You're not going to swing miss very often because that's just how good of a player you are. He got back in Free Swing in September. He hit for more power. Like you said, even on Owen's worst days, if he's not hitting great, he's still getting on base. If he's not, his curveball's not on the mound. He's not throwing hard that day. He's still throwing strikes on defense. He's had a bad fielding day. He's still making almost all the routine plays, right? So, at his worst, he's still a good player. At his best, he's one of the top players in the Bears.
Yeah, he's definitely kind of the definition of a high floor player. He really doesn't do a lot of stuff wrong, and he just continues to take care of business, on all sides of the ball, and has really developed into, I don't know if he's necessarily a leader vocally, but he's definitely a leader by example, where he's kind of setting the standard for how things should be done. And I think he's been really, really impressive for this team as they kind of grow into their next phase as a roster. Let's go ahead and move into 13U. We have 5 All-Stars here from this team in the month of September, starting with the Bash brothers, Diego Buccio and Nifri Kabarkis. These two guys absolutely crushed the ball all September long, and it felt like these two guys, I mean, they just couldn't miss a barrel. Every time these two guys went up there, it felt like they were hitting a ball hard. I would definitely say Diego kind of had the edge on Nifri for the first couple weeks of September, but lately it feels like Nifri has kind of had the edge on Diego. I mean, but these guys go back and forth with how well they've been hitting. Definitely the Bash Bros for this team. KJ, give me your thoughts on these two. Obviously, Diego is going into his 3rd year as a Bear, Nifri going into his 2nd year, but these two have definitely become cornerstones of this roster. KJ, what do you think of Diego and Nifri?
Yeah, Diego really all fall has just been, seeing the ball so good. Everything this guy hits is hard, and he's not, your typical, big time. He's not pulling balls really down the line, but he's hitting them so hard every which way of the field, which is something that you don't necessarily, see out of the big time power hitters in the Bears. This guy can go, he can hit bombs every side of the field. Everything this guy hits is 90 miles an hour. And so, he's always been a guy who's always swung hard. It's never been an issue for him. But it seems like he's just been way more mature this year, this fall especially, and has limited the strikeouts, limited the dumb swings. Now with Nifri, he's always been, a much more mature hitter than Diego. But, I mean, not until recently here, he's really bought in. I think every pitcher Nifri faced in the first half of this season, he was always late. And no matter if the guy was throwing slow, it didn't matter how hard or slow the guy was throwing. Nifri was always late. He was always putting the ball the other way. And he's still hitting it hard, but it was going the other way. And recently, every single ball he's hit has been pulled. It's been crushed. I mean, he had a couple of balls to the wall on Sunday in just one game. I know he had a couple of doubles. I think he had 4 doubles this whole weekend. I mean, he's just having a monster week. So he's really, bought in lately to that swinging hard approach, trying to pull the ball approach. And he's turned into a completely different hitter.
Yeah, I mean, it does seem like, I've been at a couple of your games over the past couple weekends, and it just seems like both of these guys in theory are boomer bust type hitters, but it just feels like it hasn't really been any bust. It just feels like it's been all boom from these two guys. Every single at bat they take. Just very, very impressive. The consistency has always kind of been in question for these two guys, but this month there really wasn't any inconsistencies. I mean, they just hit every single weekend, every single game, every single at bat. They were giving you a good at bat and just doing it all at the plate. So very, very impressive. Moving on to another guy here who's a little bit of a surprise, in my opinion, for the All-Star team, especially because this guy kind of gets talked about as a pitcher for the most part, but is making the September All-Stars as a hitter, Josh Tollier, who had a very, very good month at the plate. I know toward the end of the month, started getting moved up in the lineup, has been just taking good at bats all month long. And Bernie, we've talked about Josh a lot for his pitching, and he was very solid on the mound all month long, but his hitting was all-star caliber. What do you think of Josh Tollier's bat this month?
Yeah, we talked about Josh, a while back on BBN After Dark, probably about a month ago, and we knew Josh to be a guy who's not going to strike out. He's going to give you a good at bat. He's going to put the ball in play every at bat. But I mean, the power has really exploded this month. Looks like. I mean, he had 4 doubles, and even the ball. I was coaching third base for his 13 team on Sunday, and even a ground ball Josh hit for a single. I mean, I was like, dang, I didn't know Josh could even hit a ball that hard. Like the ball is smoked. If he gets the ball in the air, he's burning the outfield easily. But yeah, I've been surprised how hard this guy just hits the ball. I mean, honestly.
Yeah, and I've been surprised with the maturity of his at bats. I think there's always kind of this thing with Josh for a long time as him as a hitter. It was like the bigger the moment, the better at bat you're going to get from Josh. And when the game didn't really matter, if it was just a random Saturday game, we're up by 9 or 10, and Josh goes up there, gets a slow thrower. It just felt like you didn't know what you're going to get from Josh. He may go up there unfocused, but then the big spots he was going to give you a good at bat. But now it just seems like he's kind of playing with a chip on his shoulder, taking grade A Bs the entire time, and very, very impressed by the at-bats he took all month long. Moving into a couple pitching all-stars, let's go ahead and start with Cam Bernstein. This guy, again, I think if you would have told me back in the beginning of August that Cam Bernstein would be the best pitcher on 13U Floyd in the month of September, I think it would have been tough to believe you. We kind of talked about this guy as a boomer bust type arm who was going to get a lot of Ks, but probably going to have a lot of walks. But that has not really been the case. He's just been dominant straight up. Mac, I know you've known about this guy for a long time, but it really feels like he's taken a step forward this month. Mac, what do you think of Cam Bernstein and his future as a pitcher for the Bears?
Yeah, Cam, he seems like a guy that's going to go out there, and as he gets older, he's going to throw the ball really hard. I can see, it's easy to work on control, and, Cam can go out there and we can fix that, and he can throw the ball super hard, super accurate, and he'll be a guy that we'll see talking about a pitcher for a long time.
Yeah, and what has been even more impressive, obviously the raw velocity is impressive. He's got a great arm. He throws hard. But what's been more impressive to me is the command with his off speed, because that's something where when you take a guy who's just got a raw live arm and you put him in precision pitching, typically the first step is to get fastball control and then get a off-speed pitch just to complement your fastball and then make that off-speed pitch really good. But for Cam, he picked up curveball so quickly, and now it feels like sometimes he's relying on his curveball even more than his fastball in game. So it's been very, very impressive for what this guy's done all month long. And then finally, the final all-star here for 13U is Caden Inman on the mound. Not sure that what there is to say about this guy with his pitching. He's always super, super reliable, kind of the opposite of the boomer bust. He is just nice, even keel. You know what you're gonna get from him every single weekend. And Bernie, I did want to ask you about this guy. As this 13U Floyd team is really trying to solidify their rotation, it's nice to have a guy who just is going to be a high floor pitcher. He's not going to hurt you. He's not going to lose you any games. He's going to give you a chance to win every time he goes out there. What do you think of Caden Inman this month, and what do you think about his role in this pitching staff going forward?
Yeah, like you said, it's nice to have a guy like Caden on the staff because I mean, if you look at the pitching staff, ZZ's still relatively new to pitching, right? You're confident that he might go out there and not have a good day. Even Tyler and Cam, both who have been good this fall, there was question marks going into the fall about these guys, and Cam's a guy that we always considered a high floor guy, But I mean, you look up and I think in the month of September he had 14 innings and I believe 23 strikeouts. So his stuff's been there. His curveball's always been good. He's throwing harder and harder. It feels like every time I see him, and he goes up there, he just pitches with confidence and he gets batters out, man.
Yeah, and at a certain point, if you can just pound the zone with multiple pitches, it's tough to hit anybody for them to hit you. Just because you're mixing speeds and you're always constantly putting pressure because you're up in the count every single at bat. So, KJ, looking at these 5 All-Stars, obviously, I think the surprises being Josh and Cam. Josh coming in here as a hitter, really having a good month. Cam coming in here as a pitcher. Which of those was more surprising to you this month? What you got from Josh offensively or what you got from Cam on the mound?
Yeah, I like to say I expected both of these to happen, but I think Josh Taylor has completely changed his offensive approach. He's going up there swinging at everything and just hitting everything hard. He's never necessarily been a guy who's hit, extra base hits, and we never thought he was going to be a guy who went up there and just hit a bunch of extra base hits. This guy is hitting everything over the outfielders' heads. And if you would have told me Josh Taylor would be my 5 hitter at this point, I wouldn't have believed you. So, I think there could have been a case for someone to make before the fall that Cam was going to be one of my big time pitchers just because of, how hard he throws, that he was going to be in pitching, that he's going to do all these things. And although it was unlikely, I think there was a case. But the way Josh Taylor is completely transformed, it kind of makes you upset that the season's about to end because it seems like he's just starting to get hot.
Yeah, and you wonder, one of the big questions for the 12-13U BWL league is how many good two-way players are there? And I think Josh, before September, maybe, obviously he's a solid hitter. He was never a bad hitter. But I think now you're kind of looking at him and his draft stock's going up a little bit because not only are you going to get good innings from Josh, but he could be one of the top 10 hitters in that draft as well. So very, very interesting how that's going to play out for Josh Taylor, for sure. Let's go ahead and move on to 14U and the All-Stars they have here. It is 5 more All-Stars to add to the list. And starting with Lucas Wilburn, who he just does it all. I mean, he really does just do it all. He can hit, he can pitch, he plays great defense at first. He hits for power, he hits for average. We're gonna have a whole segment about how many records that were broke in this season after the season ends. But Lucas Wilburn just recently broke the 13-14U hits record in Bear history, and he's gonna break the doubles record. With 2 weekends to go, I think he needs 2 doubles to break the doubles record. So this guy, a record-breaking season, and I want to go ahead and start with Bernie on this one. I mean, this guy, it just seems like he has kind of stepped up to MVP caliber, and when you talk about the MVP being the best player on the best team, Lucas Wilburn looks like the prime candidate right now to be the fall MVP at this age if he continues the way he is. Bernie, what do you think about Lucas Wilburn and the season he had and also the September he had?
I mean, yeah, just on a full season scope here. I said this before that going into the year, I don't know if you're necessarily talking about Wilburn as an MVP candidate. I think he was always known he'd be like a top 5 or 6 hitter on that team, but like I don't know if any of us would have said that he'd be the best hitter on the team. And I think that's very safe to say that he has been the best hitter. Not only just this month but in the full season. This guy started hitting for a lot more power, like you say, double machine. He hit the ball just about as far as anybody on that squad.
Yeah, it was one of those things that was kind of funny as he was kind of chasing the hits record, felt like he was hitting a lot of singles. And then all of a sudden he broke the hits record and now he's like, okay, I'll start going for the doubles record. And then all of a sudden he just starts hitting doubles. It's like he can do whatever he wants at the plate. When he wants it doubles, he just hits doubles. When he wants it singles, he hits singles. I mean, it seems like he's going up there and he's not even it's not even a thing in his mind whether he's going to get a hit or not. He knows, he's picking what types of hits he's getting when he goes up to the plate. It's been very, very impressive to see from him. Moving on to Jack Kester, who is a rookie here making the All-Star team in September. What an impact bat this guy's been for 14U Floyd. And Mac, if there's anybody who knows about speedy power hitting outfielders, it might be you. So Jack Kester, the rookie here, what do you think of his September that he had, and what do you think about the future of Jack Kester's Bear career?
Yeah, I mean, it seems like every week we're talking about this guy for something, whether it be his power, his pitching. He's an awesome kid. I was at Robbie's game for a little bit this weekend, and I asked about Jack Kester. I asked about his speed. Robbie's like, he's so fast, fastest guy. And and then you hear about him hitting a home run at CNH, and what can this guy not do? It seems like his future is going to be an unbelievable future with the Bears.
Yeah, that power speed combo is kind of what everybody's chasing. And I'm trying to kind of think back. Obviously, Andrew Willeret had a monster first fall when he joined the Bears in his rookie season. Nyfrika Barkas had a monster first fall when he joined the Bears. Both of those guys are MVP candidates, so you just think the ceiling is so high for Jack Kester, and you think he's going to be an MVP candidate, over the next in the next couple years of his Bear career for sure. The biggest surprise for the 14U All-Stars has got to be Logan Payne, who comes up here and puts up a monster month. It seemed like he was a doubles machine, and every time he came to the plate, he was hitting a ball hard. Logan Payne, definitely a surprise here on this list for me, just because when you think about, the way we do the All-Stars is the top players on each team, so for him to be an all-star, he had to out-hit a lot of other guys, to be the top 3 hitter on the team. Logan Payne, the 3rd highest OPS for 14 Floyd this month. KJ, this guy, just the definition of hard work. It seems like the strikeout problems that he kind of had when he was a younger player, they have not been near as evident, He does still kind of have the Achilles heel of chasing curveballs, but besides that, I mean, this guy just matches fastballs. Logan Payne, this has got to be his first career All-Star as a varsity player. So what do you think about Logan Payne, KJ, and what do you think about his career kind of going forward in the Bears?
Yeah, Logan's always been a guy, he'll crush a fastball when he gets it. And I think he's really bought into that approach. He's not I think he kind of gave up on trying to be a guy who could hit every pitch. And I think that's what he was doing when he was kind of struggling. He's always been a guy who can crush fastballs. But I think, in the BWL especially, he's getting a ton of curveballs and he's trying to hit them and he's swinging at them all over the place. And now he says, man, I'm not afraid of striking out. I'm just going to – if they throw me 3 curveballs, I'll strike out, whatever. But if I get that fastball, I'm not going to miss it. He hasn't missed many fastballs, in this whole fall. And if you see this guy in free swing, I mean, every ball he hits is, 80, 83, 84 plus. So this guy's just yanking fastballs, pulling them hard, and he's a legit hitter.
Yeah, definitely, when he was a prospect on that Bell squad, there was no doubt he could hit, that was never a doubt. All that was next for his development was kind of to develop the rest of his game. And I'll tell you what, he's not a gold glover by any stretch of the imagination, but he makes all the routine plays, whether I put him at second base or outfield, it doesn't matter. He just makes routine plays. And when you have a guy who hits so well that he's not a defensive liability, it makes him so easy to get in the lineup every single game, and he's been very, very impressive just to watch him work this month. Moving on to our pitching all-stars from this team, Lucas Velchek, the obvious one here, a dominant month all month long, a sub-1 ERA on the month. We talked about him a little bit earlier, so let's go ahead, and I guess we talked about Quinn Steinbeck as well a little bit earlier. A really good month for him, a sub-3 ERA. I know he's kind of chasing down that 13-14 ERA record on the season, but he took another fantastic month through another shutout this weekend. So Quinn and Lucas definitely deserving of those all-star votes as pitchers. Very, very impressive. Moving on to 15U and the OPS leader for 15U, Floyd. KJ, do you know who it was?
I do not.
Oh, KJ, come on. I got you with the same player a couple weeks ago. It was Wes Brody who took care of business all month long, the number 1 OPS on 15U Floyd. KJ, I know that's a guy that you've liked all year long. Obviously here, really felt like he stepped his game up to another level. He was an all rookie team member all summer, but finally the first time here, he is an all-star. KJ, what do you think of Wes Brody and kind of the evolution to his game and to really become an all-star level player?
Yeah, I think half of has been the strength training. I thought he's gotten really strong. He's swinging with intent, which I didn't think he was doing before. And I think a lot of it. I think the other half of it is a lot of it is mental. I think he's kind of believing now that he can be a superstar hitter. And before, he wasn't necessarily swinging with intent because he was saying, I'm a role player. I can't go in there and strike out. I'm going to play like a role player. And he had that mentality of a role player, not just physically, but mentally. And I think that's all changed for him. I think he has a mentality that he's a superstar now, and that it's his job to lose. So, if you talk to Wes, he's just confident. He works hard, and he works still as hard as he did when he was a role player. So, I'm really excited for what this guy's going to do with a whole nother winner under his belt.
Yeah, I am as well. He kind of moved into that star role. I think when Jack Dalton kind of moved back to 16U, it kind of opened up an opportunity for West to be an every inning player, and definitely he took that opportunity and ran with it. This next guy, Bernie, I know is one of your favorite players in the entire Bears organization. A guy who we had high hopes for in the preseason, and definitely he's been good all year long. He's been good, but I'm not sure he's been quite MVP caliber with the bat all season long, but definitely MVP caliber this month. He's going to be in the MVP race for the fall if he keeps hitting like this. Ben Combs, who had his best month, I would say maybe since April, it seemed like this guy got back to his roots of really being a power hitter and really establishing himself as one of the best hitters on this team. Bernie, what'd you think of Ben Combs September and his kind of return to MVP form?
Yeah, like you had said, and this guy I've been very high on. Going back to even when he joined the Bears last fall. I worked with him a lot back when we had fast infield last year, and this guy is one of the hardest workers I think in the Bears. When it comes to strength training, when it comes to how he approaches like free swing, right? Every swing he takes, there's intent behind it. And like this month, he had a great month. He came out there, the power was always there. He didn't strike out too much. Seems like his at bats are returning more and more. And even though that he hasn't been maybe a MVP type candidate all season, he's still been, in my opinion, a top 15 hitter all season long. There's top 20 at worst. And I think that if he doesn't have these good hitters on the same team as him, like Landon or Willard or even Ivan Saxon or Jack Dalton back in the summer, that like he just has so many good hitters around. It's hard for him to stand out. But I think he still had a very, very good season.
Yeah, certainly, Ben, like I said, he's been a good player all season long. Maybe you could even say he's been a great player all season long. But definitely this month he really stepped up to that MVP superstar level. A great month for him in September. Moving on to a guy you just mentioned, Bernie, Landon Nickerson. Again, a every month this guy's on the All-Star team. Not sure how much there is to say about this guy. He just mashes. Mac, I think there's definitely an argument to be made. Landon is one of the best, just pure hitters in the entire Bears organization. I think he kind of proved that last year in BWL, and he continues to prove that this season. A monster offensive year. Mac, what do you think of Landon Nickerson and the month he had, and also just where he ranks in the entire Bears organization as a pure hitter?
Landon, he's a Bear-made guy, and you can see that in free swing. I mean, he goes in there, he swings as hard as he can, and he smokes the ball every time. He's one of the hardest hitters for a reason, and then he takes what he learns in free swing, and he goes into the game, and you can see the results happening there. I mean, the results are there every time, and it's just a guy that's so exciting to watch, and you have to feel bad for that third baseman every time Landon comes up because he's scared.
Yeah, definitely one of the scariest hitters to face in the entire Bears organization. I'm speaking from experience coaching against him in BWL last year. It just every time he came up, you kind of just, I mean, you almost hoping that your pitcher just walked him because that might have been the best case scenario when he came up to the plate. This guy's been a scary hitter all season long and continued so in September. And then Logan Eckert, the pitching all-star from this 15 Floyd team. This guy continues to do it. Doesn't matter. Sundays, GMB, doesn't matter. This guy continues just to be an ace caliber arm and really taking care of business. Doing it with multiple pitches, pounding the strike zone, and just getting ahead of hitters up and down the order. Very, very impressed by Logan Eckert this month as well. Moving on to Dalton, we have 5 more All-Stars from this team, starting with Jackson Dormeyer, who led Dalton in OPS this month. Talk about a comeback story. I mean, this guy, we've talked about it plenty of times before. One of the best players in the Bears, had a broken leg or broken ankle or some sort of injury like that really set him back and felt like he kind of struggled coming off that injury. Now this year, a year removed from that injury that he had, and it seems like the further we've gotten into the season, the better he's been. And it just seems like the farther he gets from that injury, the closer to MVP form he keeps returning. He's going to be an MVP candidate in the month of September, and I assume in the fall as well, if he keeps this up. And I'll tell you what, KJ, I want to ask you about this guy because this guy, to me, he seems like, I know Rob likes to use the term unassuming superstar when talking about, several players in the Bears like ZZ, like Mac. To me, I kind of get that vibe from JD as well. Just a guy who isn't necessarily super cocky. He's not super vocal. He just goes out there and does his job. And whether he's the best hitter on the team or one of the role players on the team, it seems like you're going to get the same energy from him all the time. KJ, what'd you think of this month? I think he was, in my opinion, the Dalton MVP this month. Jackson Dormeyer was. What do you think of Jackson Dormeyer this month, KJ?
Yeah, he's a guy who's always, he's always a pretty consistent hitter for that team. And when he's at his best, he is one of the best hitters. But again, I think he's overshadowed by some of the superstars in that lineup and how good and deep that Dalton team is. But, again, there's not a lot of teams, at the 16U age across St. Louis that, JD wouldn't be one of the best players in on any team.
Yeah, he just takes care of business. Both sides of the ball, offense and defense. He just does it all. Moving on to Ty Zazaweta. Again, a just monster month for this guy. He's kind of really stepped into that, you know, one of the best hitters in the Bears. He stepped into that tier of player where he's not just a defensive-minded catcher. He's not just a, fifth or sixth best hitter on the team. He is arguably the best hitter on this team every single month. And it seems like Ty has been, he's been a staple on the All-Star team every single month. But Bernie, it really felt like he took a step forward in the month of September and this fall, where he just feels like an MVP candidate when he comes up to the plate. Bernie, what do you think about Ty Zazaweta in the month he had?
Yeah, I believe he was first on team OPS this month. And for a catcher that is already elite defensively, he's arguably one of the best defensive catchers in the Bears. The rarest thing in baseball. We've said before that is a catcher that can hit, and he's not only a good hitter, he's maybe the best hitter on his team. I think he's been that all year. Yeah, I mean he's had a monster year.
Yeah, ties as a way to the number 2 OPS on this Dalton squad, right behind JD in the month of September. A fantastic month. And speaking of the number 2 OPS guy, the third hitting all-star here, the number 3 OPS guy, also an all-star for his pitching as well, Tegan Kreitler, who I'll tell you what, in the middle of September, kind of had a 2-week stretch where he was not all-star caliber, but that just shows you how good he was in the first and last week of September, that he was still able to be an all-star here on the list. This guy, you know, that 2-week stretch he had in the middle of September is probably the only slow stretch of baseball Tegan's played this year. I mean, it seems like every single month he is dominating. Every single month he's in the MVP conversation. He's won the MVP several times in these monthly awards. Just taking care of business. Mac, I know you get a chance to play with this guy in Lutheran South as well, but also obviously you see him up at the Bud Dome all the time. What makes Tegan so good, Mac? And what a month he had here. What are your thoughts on Tegan Kreitler?
Something about Tegan, he's such a hard worker, and he's going to go out there. He doesn't go out there and, tell everyone how good he is. He doesn't, act all cocky, but he goes out there and he works. And you can see that in his, his size. He's got a good size on him. He hits the ball hard. He can pitch hard. And it's something that, you value from him. And I said it earlier, this Dalton team is very good, and he's a guy that you think as one of the top players on that team. And that's definitely not easy to do.
Yeah, I think many people would say he is the best player on that team, and arguably the best team in the Bears. Tegan is arguably the best player in the Bears. So another great month from him, even though I don't think he was necessarily MVP caliber this month, just because he did have a couple slow weeks. I think it just shows you how good he is, that his bad months is, okay, I'm the third best hitter on my team, and I'm still an all-star. That's my bad month, That's why I think it's so impressive about Tegan. A great month. Our pitching all-stars here, Elijah Underwood, we kind of talked on earlier. His definitely best month of the season. Really, really felt like he stepped into his own on the mound. The second guy is Santiago Story, who, in my opinion, kind of gets the back end of the stick when we talk about this Dalton pitching staff. When we talk about this team, and last year, the narrative was best pitching staff in Bear history. This year, their pitching staff definitely the strength of their team. but I feel like Santiago kind of goes under the radar when you're talking about this team. Everybody talks about Elijah, everybody talks about Tegan, and even Tyler Hall this year has kind of gotten more shine than Santi has, but he's just been Mr. Consistency. KJ, I know you got a chance to coach this guy in BWL. Just seems like this guy's just reliable and goes out there every single week, gives you a chance to win, kind of like we talked about with Caden Inman. What do you think about Santiago's story this month and the season he's put up on the mound?
Yeah, Santi was very underrated for what he did in the BWL. He was dominant in the BWL. I think he was one of the most, and I still stand this to be true. I think he's one of the most consistent pitchers at the high school level. A lot of the pitchers at the high school level, sometimes are inconsistent. They can struggle with walks. It's either they're really on or they're really off. And Santiago seems like he's always on. He's not going to put up the superstar, big strikeout game numbers like, his teammate Elijah Underwood might, a guy like Elliot Myers, a guy like Mac Floyd, but, he's going to go out there and give you good innings. He's going to throw strikes for you. He's always consistent. And I think that's where Santi finds a lot of his value.
Yeah, this guy, he's impressive to me. He's honestly one of my favorite players in the entire Bears, especially when he takes the mound. So great month for Santi. Glad he was able to get on the All-Star team as well. Finally, we have 18U, 3 All-Stars here from 18U Floyd. And of course, starting with Mac Floyd, who is obviously here on the show. So this is going to be a kind of interesting conversation because obviously we've never had a player talk about themselves here on the show. But Mac, it just seemed like you were locked in all month long. The #1 high school OPS for this month, 8 doubles, 5 triples, 3 homers. It seemed like every single time you went up to the plate, you were confident, hitting balls hard. So Mac, what'd you think of what you did this month? It seemed like you were taking that extra step as being locked in this month. And you've had a great season, obviously, but this month it just seemed like it was a whole nother level. Mac, give me your thoughts on this month and how you performed.
It's myself, so I got a lot to say, but I'll keep it short on here. This month has just felt a little different. I don't know what it is. And the ball's hitting my bat and it's just going. And it's been that way it's been something that, has been happening all season. And this month it decided to just crank it up. So I'm going out there, not doing anything different, but just trying to help the team and trying to do my thing. And it's working. So.
Yeah, a really, really impressive month. Mac, obviously you're always one of the favorites in the MVP conversation, but it feels like this month really elevated you to you're probably the guy to beat out for the fall MVP, even with guys like Tegan Kreitler on 16U, the slew of guys on 15U. It feels like over the last 4 weeks of the season for high school, you're going to be the guy who people are trying to chase down and take that MVP from. So best of luck to you, Mac, to go ahead and finish it off. But Brandon Nickerson is going to be our next All-Star here. Again, kind of like we talked about with Tegan, Brennan, not necessarily an MVP caliber month, but that should just tell you if this is his bad month, how good he is. This guy, arguably the best power hitter in the entire Bears organization, had 2 more home runs this month, 5 doubles, a over 1,000 OPS. Very, very solid month for Brennan, even though it wasn't necessarily MVP caliber. A very good month all around. And Bernie, this guy has just consistently been one of the elite power hitters in the entire Bears organization. I don't know if you can necessarily say this is one of Brennan's best months, but definitely a very good one as well as he is here on the All-Star team. What do you think about Brennan's September, Bernie?
Yeah. If I know Brennan like I think I know Brennan, this is definitely not one of his best months, tell you that much. And he's still an all-star, right? That tells you how good this guy is. If we're talking about this as, his worst month of the year or one of the worst, every month's better than this, then he's going to be right back in the MVP conversation, where I think everyone expects him to be, month in and month out.
Yeah, and with 4 weeks to go, I think Brennan definitely is going to be extra motivated after this month to really turn things up. And because of how high his ceiling is, he could crank out 8 home runs in the next 4 weeks, and all of a sudden he's the MVP, and nobody would be surprised. So very, very impressive. Our final player here on the All-Star list is going to be Freddie Smith, who really had a great month. #2 on 18 Floyd in OPS, #2 on 18 Floyd in batting average, both right behind Mac. But Mac, I do want to go ahead and throw this one to you. This guy who joins the team from that Birnstill squad in the summer, and of those Birnstill group, it seems like Fred has been the quickest to adapt to this higher level of play. To me, a really, really impressive month. He's very good defensively as well, which helps. But Mac, what do you think about Fred Smith and the transition he's made from going from 6U Birnstill to 8U Floyd? A really nice month from Fred Smith.
Yeah, I don't think, you could have expected this from Fred. It seemed like Ingleton would be that guy that would come up from 16U Burn and perfectly adapt, but, it's been Freddie. And I remember his first 2 at-bats he took this fall were not very good. And Rob yells at him, and ever since then, he's just gone out there and smoked the ball. And it went from being like, oh, no, Freddie's coming up to thank goodness Freddie's coming up. So, he's going out there, he's smoking extra base hits, and it's something that, we're very happy to have as him on the team, and he's contributing so big. And it's nice that we're finally talking about it.
Yeah, that was kind of a lot of the discussion in the early part of the fall was these 6U Burnsville squad guys moving up to 18U Floyd, and Freddie definitely has been that guy. Let's go ahead and very quickly go through the all-rookie team. Definitely don't have time to talk about all of these guys, but there are a couple I wanted to go ahead and mention. So let's go ahead and run through a couple guys here. Of course, Owen Haynes, Carson Griffith, and Jack Kester, all on the all-rookie team. We already talked about them when talking about all-stars. A couple other names here. Trey Vonderhyde, who I think had a very solid month, all things considered. His rookie trying to make it through the Bears, trying to learn the Bears system. Had a very solid month, right in the middle of the pack for his team in OPS and playing on a varsity team. Very, very impressive, I thought. Reed Ruscio, this guy, it just seems like, goes up there, pounds the strike zone, and gives you good at-bats. And I think we're starting to kind of see, him carve out a nice little role for himself on Bell right now. And I believe he hit leadoff on Sunday, so he's kind of starting to come into his own as a prospect in the Bears organization. So very, very impressive. Moving on to the list here, Nolan Chilton had a very nice month for that Driscoll squad. Braden Colburn was arguably one of the best players on that Latrania squad all month long. Evan Wheatley is an all-star. Caden McBride is an all-star. Max Sandler is an all-star, as well as Mason Lukin, all-rookie, as well as Mason Lukens. But a couple guys I did want to go ahead and mention or go ahead and highlight, starting with Noah Hendricks, who besides Jack Kester, I think this guy has made the biggest impact on a varsity team in the entire organization so far. His pitching, as he's become a big part of the rotation. He's taking great at-bats and playing amazing defense. And KJ, I'm not sure how much you've seen of Noah in person, at least. I know you've been looking at him on Game Changer, but Noah Hendricks, what do you think about this guy? And it felt like at the beginning of the fall it was going to be Gunnar Wilson who had the biggest impact as a rookie for 15 Floyd, but it's been Noah Hendricks as of late. So what do you think about Noah Hendricks and the role he's carved himself out on this 15 Floyd squad?
Oh yeah, I haven't really seen this guy play much, but it always seems like someone is an unlucky guy who steps up to Rob Floyd and his age. And maybe he is one of those guys, and I haven't really got to see this guy play much, but by the way he looks, he doesn't look like he'd be a superstar player, but it's another guy that Rob's going to get the most out of, and so I think they make a good pair. It seems like Noah's looking to work hard and has loved the Bears so far, so who knows how far this match could go.
Yeah, very, very impressed with what he's done so far. Moving on to another guy who a very solid month as an all-rookie. And Bernie, I know this is a guy that you like a lot. I think he is going to be a future 15U Floyd player. But for now, he's been one of the most reliable players on Driscoll, and that's Lucas Colson. And I know, Bernie, you've said I don't know if you said he's your favorite rookie in the Bears or your favorite 15U rookie, but I know you like this guy a lot. What do you think about Lucas Colson? Because other than like the work ethic and the attitude and the type of kid he is, what do you think about Lucas as a baseball player this month and a really nice month for him? Give me your thoughts on Lucas Colson.
Yeah, I've talked about before, like you've been saying that, I think this guy's one of the hardest workers, at the age. Just when I see it, from what I see him at practice, when I see him work outside of practice. But he had a very good month, at the plate. The knock on this guy that I heard before, because I don't see the 15 guys hitting the cage because I'm out there in the field the whole time. The knock was his bat a little bit, and he had a decent month at the plate. For whatever roster he's on, Driscoll or whoever he's playing for that week. He had a good month with the bat. And I think that, as the back continues to develop, the work ethic, the defense, the pitching, even the other things are there. It's just, can we develop the bat? That's what we do as Bears. That's what we're best at. So I think it'll come with some time.
Yeah, and I think this winter is going to be huge for him to really build that body. And with his work ethic, it just seems like a guy who's destined to succeed in the Bear program. So very, very impressive. The last two guys I want to talk about a little bit. I'm not sure if the three of you guys have really seen much of this guy. So if any of you three have, feel free to chime in. But a guy I really like a lot is Cole Miller for this 16U for the 16U team. He's on 16U Burn right now, but I think he will be making an appearance on Dalton at some point. KJ, have you seen much of Cole Miller?
I saw him towards the beginning of the fall. He's a slick defender.
Yeah, definitely a slick defender. He's had a very nice month at the plate as well. Mackie, what about you? Have you seen much of Cole Miller? I know, you're kind of around the 16U squad a little bit.
No, I haven't.
No, okay. Well, Cole Miller, this is a guy I like a lot. He's a guy who, to me, another guy we kind of talked about a little bit, Seth Mullen at the beginning of the month and Alex Demurtzes, who are 215 you guys. I think Cole could be a better version of those two players, and I like Seth Mullen and Alex Demurtzes a lot. I've kind of been saying in the last couple weeks that Demurtzes is my favorite rookie right now. Or I guess he's not technically a rookie because he joined in the spring, but he's still in his first year with the Bears. Alex Demurtzes is one of my favorite prospects right now. And so for me to be saying that Cole Miller might even be a better version of that, I think just goes to show you how much I like this guy. I think he's got a lot of power potential as well. Very good with the glove. And I think his future is probably more at second base or third than it is short. But I think if he needed to play shortstop, he could. I've been really, really impressed with this guy, and I think he's got a bright future ahead of him. And then the final guy I want to talk about here was Colin Sandler. I already mentioned his twin brother, Max Sandler, here on the all-rookie team. Both these guys had very good months, but Colin, to me, was a little bit more surprising just because he's a little bit more raw. He's a little bit more Max is very, for lack of a better term, Max is very polished. He's a slick defender. He kind of already knows what type of baseball player he is. Whereas Colin kind of came to the Bears more raw and more open to, you know, redesigning what he is as a baseball player. I know personally from his pitching lessons, he's completely, he came to the table with nothing, and he's put together a couple really good outings in a row on the mound and at the plate. He's just been open to the whole swing hard, keep your head down, be aggressive model that it feels like he's really letting the Bears mold him into whatever we want him to be. So I thought this guy has had a very good month, and I think he's got a very high ceiling of the guys we talk about on this list. I think he could be one of the higher ceiling guys. Bernie, I know this guy you like a lot. What'd you think of Colin Sandler this month? To me, I think he's come on a little bit quicker than I thought he was going to.
Yeah. I know he's batting, in the middle of the order for the training squad, decent amount this month. But with the pitching, he literally came into pitching. He was like, I can't throw any strikes. Like, that was the baseline we started at. We can't throw any strikes. And then he started throwing fastballs for strikes. He's like, and pitching at least. And he was like, that's the best fastball I've ever thrown. And then we taught him a little curveball that he's never been able to throw for a strike. And then he threw it for a strike. He's like, that's the best curveball I've ever thrown, he told me. And then now we're starting to see it in games a little bit. He's had a couple of nice outings in a row. And, he's a guy that now the training can go to get some big outs for him.
Yeah, I've been really impressed by this guy, both on how quickly he's come along as a pitcher and as a hitter. And this another guy who I think is really going to thrive over the offseason, really diving into the gym and really growing his game. So very, very excited what I'm going to see from him. That's going to go ahead and do it for this episode of BBN After Dark. Again, on Friday, we're going to be unveiling our MVP, Cy Young, Platinum Glove, Rookie of the Month, and, of course, our hitting and pitching prospect of the month on that Friday show. So definitely are not going to want to miss that. But Bernie, Mac, KJ, thank you for joining me here on BBN After Dark. A very good episode once again. Thank you all for listening, and we'll talk to y'all next week.